Hello, hello, traders. Good morning. Happy Wednesday to everybody. Hope you're all doing well today. How about these new all-time highs on the Qs, huh? I mean, they kind of played around with it yesterday, made new all-time highs yesterday. Today, they've really sent it. Quite impressive coming into the end of the year, I must say. How are y'all doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. There are a few of you here. My name is Jason Krutzky. And it is a pleasure to be with you this lovely morning to talk TrendSpider, to talk markets. For anybody who's tuned in who has never been in one of these office hour sessions before, this is your chance to ask me questions about TrendSpider. Whatever questions you might have, I'm here to answer them. So hit me with them. Let me know who you are. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Would love to say hello and get to know you a little bit. I do not have any agenda today. Right now, I've got the Qs up on the chart. Happy to look at anything you guys want to look at. I've got the full time frame continuity indicator hanging out on the chart as well. This is a relatively new, we launched this maybe 2 weeks ago. Pretty sweet little indicator that you're able to do some interesting things with. For anybody who's not yet familiar with full time frame continuity, what this thing is looking for is it's a price. It's essentially like a price discovery indicator, right? Like we are very quickly able to see what's going on multiple time frames. If you're familiar with the strat trading philosophy, strat traders are very interested in full time frame continuity because it helps confirm whatever direction they are trading in. So full time frame continuity up means you have multiple time frames all green. Full time frame continuity down means you've got multiple time frames all red. If you do not have full time frame continuity, then there is a mixture. You know, some time frames are red, some time frames are green, and those are oftentimes better times to, or often those are better times to kind of sit and sit on your hands and let things kind of play out a little bit of choppy conditions there. So the way that this indicator works, by default, you have the 30-minute time frame defined, the 60-minute time frame defined, the 4-hour time frame defined, and then the daily is hard-coded in there. So if the 30-minute, the 60-minute, the 4-hour, and the daily are all green, then you have full time frame continuity up, and the candles are painted green. If the 30, the 60, the 4-hour, and the daily are all down, they're all red, you've got full time frame continuity to the downside, then your candles are painted red. And if there's a mix, some of those time frames are green, some of them are red, you're going to get gray candles. So the green is confirmation higher, red is confirmation lower, and gray is confirmation of sideways. It's kind of the idea, and you can adjust this to, you know, whatever 3 time frames you want to include up to the 4-hour. So if you wanted like the 15-minute, the 30-minute, and the 60-minute, you could do that. And the indicator is visible on any time frame below the lowest time frame that you have selected. So in this case, I have the 15-minute is my lowest time frame. So the indicator is going to be visible on the 15-minute and lower. That's how this indicator works. So if anybody has any questions about it, feel free to hit me. Happy to answer anything. We got a few folks. Sarah from Medellin. Did I pronounce, is it Medellin or Medellin? Because I've heard both, but I kind of think Medellin is the more proper enunciation. Maybe you can let me know, Sarah. Deep Dive, what's up? Hope you're well today. Shout out to the spiders in the building. Whip your feet off at the door. Press the like button. Yeah, give me a nice like. If you know, we're always trying to build the channel up a little bit. So the likes and the follows or the subscriptions to the channel, it's free to subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to do anything. Just subscribe, and you'll be alerted, or you can choose to be alerted anytime I'm live. You'll get updates on when we release new technical analysis series videos. We just released a new TA video over this weekend. I don't know if I mentioned it on Monday, but let me show you guys really quick while we're talking about it. I've been doing a lot of demos for Discord groups and things like that lately, and one thing that I've been showing everybody in these demos is this strategy, this Apple's favorite SMA strategy. It is a pretty killer little strategy that works quite well, and I wanted to make a video explaining how I built it and how I used TrendSpider's tools to build it. So here's the video right there if you guys want to give that a once over at some point. Pretty cool little video, and gives you a good understanding, or hopefully it seeks to give you a good understanding of how specifically how the let me show you guys really quick. We'll just throw it on so that we can see it. We get a lot of questions from TrendSpider traders on how to utilize the performance chart and how to utilize the price behavior explorer. And this video kind of goes into that detail of, ways that these tools can be used. Because, a lot of folks think that you gotta be some sort of genius to build out profitable trading strategies. And the reality is you don't. You just have to have a basic idea and a basic understanding of what these tools are doing. And they'll really kind of walk you through a lot of the process. They'll give you a decent idea of kind of like where or how you should be thinking about the strategy, where your strategy tends to reverse, what you can expect on the gain side, what you can expect on the the price going against you side. There's just a lot of information here, and it can be a little bit intimidating, and I know that, and we know that, and so wanted to make something that could hopefully help you guys understand a little bit more about how these tools work. So that's what that video is all about. There are a few of you here. Please do say hello. Deep Dive, I know you've been here quite a few times, so shout out to you for coming and hanging out. But anybody else who's here who hasn't said hello, do say hello. If you're here and you're not yet a TrendSpider trader, let me know that specifically. I'm curious to know who's here who doesn't know anything about TrendSpider. Perhaps you're here because you want to know a little bit more. Please know this is a open forum, and these live streams are really made better by you guys. Like I said, I come in with very little plan. I don't want to go into too much detail about something you guys aren't interested in. I'm really kind of leaning on y'all to let me know what you want to learn about. So if you're curious about a tool, you're curious about an indicator, you're curious about scripting, you're curious about whatever it might be, let me know that so I know what to kind of show you guys today. What are y'all watching? Obviously, I got my eyes here on the Qs, on those new all-time highs. I wonder where SPY's at. Haven't looked at it today. I've just really been watching tech myself. Platform identifying a nice rising wedge here. Let me go to the weekly and see how close we are to some proper new all-time highs. Excuse me, 480.03 is the level-ish for 479. I guess I could hover over this and see what's the high. 479.98. All right. So that is the spot to gain. You got to assume the Qs did it. You got to assume the SPY is going to probably do it here soon too. How's IWM looking today? Haven't looked at this guy. Turn those off. Really nice move. Taking out. Ooh, let's see. Are we getting there? Are we there yet? Wow. Took out the highs from August 2022. So new 52-week highs. I guess we made new 52-week highs last week too. But this is, I guess, even bigger than 52-week highs. It's like over a year. Wow. Really, really impressive moves over the past month, y'all. Really impressive stuff. So no questions from you guys? You're tuned in here, but you got nothing? You got no questions for me? I'm going to take a look and see kind of what the gang is watching. We've got on the platform, we've got these, they're called moderated watch lists, but they're just these pre-built watch lists that pull data from kind of all different places. And so if you type in Wall Street bets, or just type in wall in your watch list, search bar, you're going to get all of these different Wall Street bets lists. So like top mentioned over a period of time. This would be, to me, the ones that are kind of the most interesting are the ones that are like right now. So top mentioned on the 20th of December, top mentioned. Is it the 20th already? Holy moly. So top mentioned 20th of December, top negative, top positive. These are kind of interesting lists to kind of be mindful of. So X is top negative mention today. That's kind of wild. You're getting bought out. That was that announcement on that guy. Let's see what, I'm just going to go to top mentioned for today. See what comes up. So the SPY, E, this is a name that I know absolutely nothing about. X and AMD. Huh. Got way too many lines here on the charts. Let's go back 7 days. Sometimes you can find kind of random little pockets of alpha in these lists with names that that you're maybe not super familiar of, or super, that aren't super familiar to you. We had a lot of tags recently on Lulu here, making another new all-time high this week. Coin been a monster. Hood with a huge base. So folks, we're talking Mara on Monday. If you stayed long in that trade, nice work to you. Very, very nice work. I know crypto got a pretty big bump overnight. New egg. I don't know. What do you guys want to look at? There's a few y'all here. What's up? Talk to me. German DAX bumping up against some new highs. Ooh, I know what I wanted to look at. AXON. I think Axon. Huh. Kevin Hill. Tesla. Tesla in an interesting spot. I know a lot of folks are expecting this breakout. Where are we at from all-time highs here? So this is pretty interesting. Trading up and over that anchored VWAP from the all-time high. So your average buyer from all-time highs is this, and this is the first time they've really been able to like properly hold above it for any decent period of time. Let me pull this off just for a moment. Try to get above it, you know, all throughout the past, what, 2 years really. It's kind of tricky. For me personally, I'm a price action guy, so like I don't know what's going on with Tesla fundamentally. There's a little bit of data that I could look into for sure on the platform, but for the most part, you know, I'm a price action guy. So if you're just looking at near term, you know, pretty clear little downtrend that we're in, and kind of getting rejected at a relatively, maybe not like super obvious spot, but you do have Let me throw fair value gap up. I'm just going to make this gap factor quite small. Oh, interesting. It's not identifying it. Well, it's there. It just might be, it might be like way too small. Let me try a smaller one. Make it like 0.1. Yeah, there it is. So you have this fair value gap right here. This is what I was looking at. And the platform's identifying it. So this is what I would consider to be like a logical place for price to kind of pause. Right? You're in a downtrend, you're coming in testing a previous high. You would expect it to kind of fail somewhere around in here. Now whether or not it ultimately will, who knows? Because if you zoom out, if you zoom out and you look at kind of the longer term time frame from beginning of this year, well, what are we in? We're in an uptrend, right? This is your low, made a higher low, a higher high, potentially a higher low. So then that sets up a higher high. So it's all about your time frame, right, Kevin? Like at the end of the day, it's all about your time frame. Are you super bullish on Tesla over the next 10 years? Are you day trading Tesla? You know, if you're day trading Tesla to the long side, perhaps right now isn't the best time. Maybe you want to be looking for some sort of pullback. But if you are swinging Tesla for the next 5 years, then maybe it makes a lot of sense to be long here. Just generally speaking, I am of the mindset that you want the confirmation first. And right now, you're just in a downtrend for the time being. I guess there's an argument to be made. Let's see if... Yeah. So there's this argument that we've broken out of it. And then perhaps, so the platform is identifying this descending channel, right? And we've broken out of that five sessions ago. I'm always of the mindset though that it's better to wait for a retest of whatever the level is. So if you are watching this breakout, then perhaps you want to look for a pullback to it for it to act as support and then a move higher. That's kind of how I would be looking at it. And that kind of, for me, is the style that I would trade, or the style that I do trade. It would be hard for me to go long right now into these previous highs just because we made a new low. So, you know, technically you're in a downtrend and you're coming back in to test previous highs. Now, if they can push this thing higher and start making some new highs relative to these two, then that tells you something, you know, that tells you that they're expanding the range. Might still require some consolidation, but it gives you some sort of sense of what might be coming. But that's just how I look at it, right? Just because I look at it that way doesn't mean that that's the right way. And also, who knows what's, you know, like who knows what's going to happen news-wise. Anything could happen in that regard. So then you start wanting to like be monitoring for news. You want to be, what are insiders doing right now? Are insiders doing anything of any interest? Are there any big sells or any big buys? A couple of sells, pretty small. Even this one, $1 million, you know, for the chief accounting officer sold 4,000 shares. You know, maybe he's just trying to, or maybe she's just trying to buy somebody something nice for Christmas. I don't know. We could see if there's anything on the unusual option side. Let's do that. Right here, I am just, I'm utilizing the assistant. The assistant is a relatively new tool to the platform. So this is an AI. It's a tool that utilizes AI, and you can take the assistant. You can utilize the assistant to kind of like grab things on the platform, to like find things on the platform for you. So you saw I just typed in Tesla unusual options, and then it built me a list of everything that came through. And you know, it might be interesting to kind of see, since we, at least the way that I would think of it, right? Since I know that we're coming into an area of a logical area of resistance, is the market setting up anything? Is there anybody out there that's bidding or offering based off of that idea? Are there any big orders that have come in today against those previous highs? What's this one right here? $434,000. 4% of the open interest. Bearish sweep at the bid. 8 days till expiry. This is on the 260 call. So this could be somebody selling calls, perhaps. That's the biggest order that I've seen today. This one's a bit bigger, or this one's almost the same size, $312,000 on the 260 put. So this could potentially be somebody buying puts. Here's a bigger one. This one came in yesterday. 260 calls, January 2026. Yeah, so this is 758 days till expiry. Who knows? You know, is that important? I don't know. But this is also marked as a bearish trade, even though it was on calls. The way that this bearish bullish tag is, it's simply whether the contracts were sold at the bid or at the ask. So if a call order took place at the ask, it's considered bullish, right? So here's at the ask, this one that I'm highlighting here. This is calls at the ask, it's labeled bullish. If it's a put at the ask, it's labeled bearish. If it's a call at the bid, it's labeled bearish. And if it's a put at the bid, it's labeled bullish. I believe that's how that is. Let me see here. Yeah. So that's the differentiator there on how it's labeled, or on why it's labeled. Best breakouts often don't retest though. Example is to look at Apple in the falling wedge. Let's take a look at that, Jacob. Yeah, and the thing is, too, let's not forget, everybody's got different styles of trading, right? Like you say, maybe the best breakouts don't retest. And that could absolutely be the case. But for, you know, does your style of trading, does it make sense for you to chase those? If your style of trading follows that methodology, then sure, then no problem with that at all. Go for it. My particular style doesn't, so I just don't. I look for those retests. It works either way, right? But on November 6th, let's see. I see what you're saying. Let's see. I don't know if the platform's going to identify this anymore. It might be too far in the past. But let me see. Yeah, so it's too far in the past, but I do see what you're saying. You're talking about this guy. And absolutely, you have this exact same setup essentially on Tesla, right? So you're 100% right. This could this could keep going, you know. And the thing is like, this could also retest way down the road, you know. It could come back in February. It could come back in March. It could come back in, who knows, anytime. And it may never come back. You just don't know. At the end of the day, I think it's just about what makes sense for your trading style. If my trading style requires a pullback and a retest and it never comes, then I just don't take that trade, right? And if your trading style doesn't require that pullback retest, if your trading style actually requires the lack of that pullback and retest, then you take that trade because it does exactly what you want it to do. So it's just about different styles and what makes sense for yours. There's not a right or a wrong way. If you're making money, you're making money, right? I can tell you what isn't right now. This music isn't doing it for me. I'm going to switch things up here. Let's try something a little different. But yeah, that's actually a really good example, Jacob. That's a really good example. It doesn't have to go the way that I'm saying I want to see it go. I think, you know, half of being successful in the market is accepting that it doesn't go the way that you think it's going to go, right? Like, in order to kind of make it in the long term, you have to kind of, you have to play everything as you see it. I can't play Wu-Tang Deep Dive. I can't play anything that's got copyright stuff. I made that mistake in my early days of live streaming and got all kinds of alerts and warnings from YouTube about doing that. So now I have to play stuff that doesn't have any copyright restrictions on it. Sorry. I would play some Wu-Tang. Any other tickers you guys want to take a look at? What's going on the Qs right now? Best loser wins. That is a decent, I mean, get used to losing, right? Like, it's a good, or maybe not get used to losing, but I was having a conversation with a trader last night, and we were just talking about, like, the idea of whatever your trade idea is, whatever your plan is, going into a trade knowing what you're prepared to lose at all times, right? Don't even take a trade until you have it, until you have a good understanding, clear understanding of what you're willing to lose on that trade. Let's take a look at BABA. I know folks are kind of talking about the potential for these Chinese names to be picking up some speed. So let's, I don't know, let's talk about it. So, I'm going to zoom way out. Whatever I'm not sure exactly about a chart, I always start way zoomed out. Start on the monthly. To me, this is a good place. Even if you're trading the 5 minute, like, start on the monthly, kind of know where you're at, right? So first thing that's relatively obvious as of right now is you've got a potential higher low relative to your October 2022 lows, the all-time lows down here at 58 bucks. So that's a key level, right? 58 bucks is a key level. It's important just to have that in the back of your mind. I know it's trading 75, but 58 bucks is a key level. I'm always gonna do this. Anchor a VWAP to kind of an important high. All-time high makes sense just to see where price is relative to that. So that's at 136. That's not too relevant. We might want to think about a different one. Maybe perhaps where are our buyers from that all-time low? Well, they're trapped at 88 bucks. So you've got sellers, potential sellers at 88 bucks, and you've got a very important low at 58 bucks. So that's a decent, okay, that's a decent range to be thinking about. We can even adjust this. Let's go down to here and see. Brings it a little bit tighter, 87.50. So that 87.50 spot, you can see it came into play, what, a couple weeks, I guess like 7 weeks ago or so. They traded up into it, rejected right at it, and big failure. So then that kind of makes this November 13th weekly kind of important, right? Because it's a pretty big spot. And then let's go down to the daily, and you can see where they're rejecting today, or where they rejected yesterday was at the anchored view at from that spot. So that's kind of interesting, right? That gives you a decent idea of a potential line in the sand. Now the platform is identifying this descending channel that we're struggling to get up and over here. A next thought here, now that we're on the daily, I'm going to remove this, is to take kind of a fundamental, an important high or low, and maybe measure a fib. If this is your low and this is going to continue higher, you know that you've got a 50% retrace, 79. You've got a 0.618 at 881. What do we know about reversals into fibs, right? You know that this is a pretty key area. This kind of middle area in the fibs. I look at this as kind of like your line in the sand for a continuation higher or not. If they do drive it higher and start failing and pushing lower from the 50% retrace, that's, obviously bad. If they can get through this, maybe they chop with or in and around it, 78 to 81, they chop in and around it and start pushing a little bit higher. That would give me an expectation of continuation higher, right? And even continuation back up to the top of the range, to that 87 or somewhere in there. You do have a nice big gap to fill, 85s, 86s in here. It's certainly one of the most oversold tickers around, ain't it? I'll go from this low again. And this would align, if this takes time to slowly kind of gain, if it does want to gain, your anchored VWAP might come down a little bit, right? And then that would align with the top of the range. There's a lot up there, I guess, if they can push through that 50% retrace or so. There's a lot up there that could cause some trouble. The thing you got going for it is that you're potentially putting in a higher low here. Nothing really telling you that. You're in a pretty clear, and have been in a pretty clear downtrend for quite some time. But, if you wanted to say that if this is potentially a higher low, that would be a good sign. Let's do something here. I'm gonna add volume. I just want to see if any notable volume came in. So you've definitely had elevated volume levels, like relative to, September, October, August. Looks like we haven't seen this kind of elevated volume since maybe even like the summertime. So definitely there's something happening down here. The volume is kind of telling you that. Look at this like massive increase in average volume. That's kind of interesting. As price has been pulling back, you've had these increased amounts of volume. First real uptick in volume that you've seen in quite a while, since really March. We had a slow increase in volume into like the end of April or so, and this thing's just been on a steady decline until now. So yeah, perhaps that volume is potentially confirming this as a tradable bottom. I guess if I were thinking about taking this trade myself, I might be looking for these lows to hold, essentially. Trading against that 70 level, or maybe just below it. So then it becomes a question of like risk to reward. How much are you willing to risk, right? So if you're thinking, who knows, this is the low, then maybe you're using that low as your stop level. And then you want to measure your profit target based off of whatever your R you're going for. Now, the general school of thought is 3R is what you should kind of be seeking. So you're risking $1 to make $3, right? Okay. In order to get 3R, if you just bought it today, right now, this moment, to get 3R with a stop below these lows, you're talking about this thing's got to get up to 91 bucks. Can it do it? Will it do it? How long will it take for that to happen? I don't know. But knowing that is how I would start thinking about, well, how do I want to trade it? Can it, you know, a lot of people love to trade weekly options or even 0 DTEs or whatever. You know, if you're looking for that kind of R, then can it get to that price in that short amount of time? I don't know. But this is how I'd be thinking about it. I'm always trying to think in terms of R personally. It just feels like the safest way to do it. This way I don't just like willy-nilly get into trades. This forces me to kind of like think through, does it make sense? And so if that doesn't make sense to me, well, then what does make sense to me? If we identified this area up here, or say we identify that 50% retrace just of this swing from this high to this low. And we identified that 50% retrace as kind of the area we wanted to trade up to. Well, with a stop at that low, your R is 0.91. That's not so great. So then you'd have to lift your stop up to make that R make sense. But then you come into the issue of, well, what if I get stopped out? You know, 73, 76 is your stop for a 3R into that area. Do you think you're going to get stopped out there? It's possible. Certainly possible. I guess ultimately the point I'm trying to make here is any trade could work, right? But you have to kind of think through the reality of the trade itself. And does it make sense? If it does, great, go for it. Try it. And if it doesn't, then keep looking. Let's take a look at NEO. So NEO in a pretty similar kind of spot. Looks like I've done a little bit of analysis on this already. You're up and over anchored VWAP from the gap down back in September. So that's a positive sign. You've got a longer term one from those August highs. Yeah, no problem, Kay. My goal, I know that maybe a lot of people are looking for whether or not they should take a trade. It's not my role to tell you what you should do. I like to just maybe more so explain how to think about deciding if you should, you know, identifying where you should, where you're right, identifying where you're wrong, whatever your rules are. Those rules can be literally anything. It could be, you know, price above this XYZ moving average. I want to be long when price is above the 20 EMA. Cool. Try it. You know, like that's the sort of thing you can actually strategy test and see how price tends to do when it gets above it. But identifying where you're right and where you're wrong before you take any trade is really key. Identifying what's in it for you before any trade is really key. Knowing what you're up against, whether it be a big anchored VWAP or you know, a 200 SMA or whatever, you know, whatever it is that you might utilize in your analysis. So on NEO here, they're holding lows, decent sign. You know, they made this low back in June. They ramped. They took out a bunch of highs, bunch of near-term highs, and they came back all the way back and held a low. They didn't even They didn't even stop these people out below these lows, which is pretty interesting. Like, if you have a move like this, I mean, this is a 50, geez, this is like 100, what is this, 131%. And they gave the entire move back. But the one thing that they didn't do was they didn't stop out anybody who was long who had stops below this low. That's kind of interesting. Because they could have, you know, like how hard would it have been to like wick through and take it to like 660 really, really fast, take all of the stops that are just below this low. Because you have to assume that there are lots of stops above and below it really important highs and lows. This is obviously a very clearly important low. And they held lows. That's huge. And not only did they hold lows, like they tried. You know, they spent days down here trying to take lows and they couldn't do it. So that's pretty bullish for this $7 level. So maybe your $7 level is like a key spot where you want to be long against. So again, you can take out that R drawing tool. And you know, who knows, wherever you're long from, let's say you're trying to buy the pullback to this anchored VWAP. I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying, say you do. And you're using this $7 level as your stop. Well then, measured up to 3R or 2R, whatever R makes sense for you. You know, there aren't like clear rules about this, but just 3R generally speaking, if every trade you take has a 3R, then you can lose 60% of the time, right? That's what's really all about, is like surviving losses using good risk tactics. So then your 3R target, if you're buying this VWAP pullback and you're using this low as your stop, your 3R target's $11. What's at $11 that could, you know, is there stuff that would stop you before it gets to $11? I'm certain there is. I'm going to throw up a moving average ribbon here. And I'm just going to make these lengths a little bit longer. Actually, make this 10, make this 20, make this 50, make this 100, and make this 200. What's there? So you're up and over the 10, the 20, the 50. You're struggling at the 100. You've got the 200 at 979. All right, so that's interesting to know. I'm just going to turn this off now and switch this to the 200, just so that that's what we're monitoring here. I guess those were the EMAs, huh? All right, so you got your 200 SMA at what, 920. We know that 200 SMAs have a tendency to be somewhat powerful. You got a reaction at it here. They broke above it, they held it, and they continued. They tried to hold it here. It wasn't perfect, but you could see how price reacted to it pretty strongly. So there's historical precedence for price reacting to this moving average. Then you might want to utilize, like I say, the fibs. I don't know, whatever makes sense for you. You got a 50% retrace at 1150, which is pretty much your target. You've got a gap here that could, you know, you could gain right through it. You could have some resistance at the bottom of it. You could have some resistance at the top of it. You know, think through all this stuff. Does it make sense? If it makes sense, cool. If it doesn't, if it's a risk you want to take, cool. How do you play it? Is this thing going to go to $11.50 this week? Probably not. So should you be trading $11 call options? Probably not. You know? I don't know. Okay. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. If there are specific things you want to look at, like if there's indicators that you're paying attention to or whatever, happy to look at them for you. Oh, nice, David. Cool. Yeah, that was my hope, was to kind of dig in a little bit to the details of those tools. It makes sense, right? Like if you have a strategy and only a few trades make it to that max profit target, then why are you trying to go after that max profit target? It doesn't make sense because most trades don't get there anyway. So then you think about like, all right, well, let's reel it in a little bit. Let's look for a little bit less profit for the sake of maybe taking more trades and for the sake of maybe actually getting those profits, Cool. Okay. I'm glad that's helpful for you. Like I say, I don't love the idea of making calls about stocks because, again, I just, who knows? Fundamentally, things could be lining up. And we could look at other stuff too, like seasonality. How does NEO tend to perform historically? There's not a ton of data here. December tends to be, this thing tends to perform poorly most of the time is the reality. But you do have January tends to be a little bit stronger of a month. It's one of your 4 strong months of the year. So then perhaps it does make sense to try some longs in December with the plan of January being a bit stronger. We could break this down. Could break this down a little bit. So it looks like in January, your strongest week has been the first week. Again, we can look at, is there insider information? There's no insider information. We can look at unusual options and see if there's anything coming in that makes sense. This is an alternative view of unusual options. So it's like a dot plot. Just to kind of see what the distribution is. The size of the dot is indicative of the size of the order. So the biggest order that I see on here, $7.50 calls expiring June 2024, 2.1 mil in premium, 121% of the open interest. So this is one single order, essentially all of the open interest. Session times? Not sure what you mean, deep dive. I'm just seeing this too. Yeah. So, like what we were talking about earlier, okay, with that Apple breakout, the best breakouts don't retest. You got to break out. You got 3 sessions trading above it. Maybe it's gonna retest, maybe it won't. If it doesn't and you start making a new high, then maybe that's suggesting something to you about the strength of this move. But yeah, clarify what you mean, deep dive, because I'm not certain what you're saying. Session times. You mean like Asia, Europe, that sort of thing? I have a feeling maybe that's what you mean. Got it. Yeah. So there isn't a indicator for that, although folks have been kind of requesting it or have been mentioning it a lot. Yeah, I have to wonder if, and I'm not an expert in this way, I'm quite the opposite. But we do have custom indicator scripting. So you can build custom indicators. If you know JavaScript, you can build custom indicators on the platform now. And first quarter next year, I'm not exactly certain. I don't have like a hard date. We'll definitely be letting folks know But first quarter next year, we're going to be releasing a marketplace for custom indicators. So hopefully, you know, other developers or more developers will come in and be a part of that and be building stuff and offering those things to traders who utilize TrendSpider. Another thought is, you know, try and build it yourself. I'm sure that if you were to go to another charting platform that has like a huge database of pre-built indicators, you might be able to pull some code from somewhere. That code might be in a different language. It might be in Pine. Yeah, that's what I would do, Deep Dive, is I would hunt down the code. Our one of the guys on the customer support team, James, he might even be here right now, I don't know, but he's been playing around with a GPT bot that he built that is meant to like transcribe. I mean, if you have the source code, then it was meant to be stolen, or like then the person who created it doesn't really care. You know, like I think in most cases, if the source code is hidden, then obviously it's not meant to be stolen. But if the source code is available for you to look at, then I think the developer of that code is specifically saying like, hey, yeah, use this if you want, or iterate on it however you want. But anyway, the guy on our customer support team, James, he has a ChatGPT bot that he's been, I don't know, how would you, I don't want to say building, but he's been working with to help convert Pine into Java. I don't think it's perfect, but he's iterating on it. So perhaps you could hit him up about it. He's in chat. You can talk to him. He might be able to give you some thoughts. Also, he is available, and there are other developers in our Discord. Up here in the top right, this question mark. If you go to join our official Discord server, there's some other developers in there that, you know, it's not like a super lively conversation, but you might be able to get some help. I wish I could assist more, but it's just a little outside of my wheelhouse. So guys, any other questions? We're coming up into about an hour here. Happy to stick around as long as you guys want. But if no other questions, then I'm probably gonna be signing off here shortly and getting back to my day. Okay, interesting. You say you can be too aggressive. I don't know that there's anything wrong necessarily with being aggressive, but just knowing where you're wrong, you know? I think a lot of the best traders have a tendency to be aggressive at important levels to them. Like I know Brian Shannon talks about he'll always take like initially he'll take a very aggressive sizing, and then as soon as he gets his reaction, he'll cut the aggressive part of his size and then let the rest kind of go and work. Nothing wrong with being aggressive if you know where you're wrong. That's really what it's all about, right? If you can stomach the loss of where you're wrong based on your aggressive sizing. Are you saying aggressive sizing, or are you saying aggressive just like going for it, winging it, and not putting a lot of thought into the idea? Maybe that's an important distinction. And again, y'all, last call for questions. If anybody has any questions, do let me know. If not, that's okay. A little low profile, under the radar pre-announcement. We've got some interesting news coming next week around our mobile app. Some big changes coming to our mobile app, which are really, really cool. This thing is about to get like stupidly more powerful. You're gonna be able to do a ton more on the mobile app. It's pretty interesting. I've been playing around with it the past couple of days. Really excited to share with you. I think anybody who utilizes mobile app for their trading, whatever it is, you know, looking at charts while you're laying in bed at night or what have you, while you're on the go, our app is about to be quite more useful for you. Because it's been a little bit limited in scope. It's been a nice little companion app. You know, you can check charts and run scans and get alerts and things, but it's a whole new world. And we're going to be releasing that next week, I believe. Jacob, Heikinashi candles in the back testing. Impossible results. Yes, it does. I made that mistake when I first started working here. Yeah, so Jacob, I think you're going to be really pleased with the mobile app update. This isn't like an improvement, dude. This is like it's like a whole new world. So I think you're going to be really stoked about it. As far as Heikinashi candles in the back tester, that's a great question. It's a common mistake that's made. And I don't know if there's a plan for, or what the plan is for addressing it, because it's tricky, right? You're buying your Heikinashi candles are built off of formulas, so those prices don't exist on the open market. I don't know, but I can ask. I could definitely ask. Let me do it. Hold on one second. I'm gonna put in that question for you. We'll see if I get any feedback. I don't know. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Hold on one sec. Let me see something. This just made me think of something. My guess is it would be interesting if we could include Heikinashi candle patterns. And then you could just define the candle pattern. I've asked for you, Jacob, if you want to shoot me a follow on Twitter, if you happen to be on Twitter. Or just, tune in again next time I'm live. Perhaps I'll have an answer for you. We'll see. My guess, Jacob, is that that's not a huge priority. I'm just going to go on a line and say it's probably not a huge priority. So how quickly we'll get to something like that, I'm uncertain. But I will also say that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So perhaps if that's something that you really want to see on the platform, perhaps give a good you know, plead your case. I've seen it in our customer feedback channel. I've seen this request, and it may have come from you because I've seen it very recently. I've seen it like in the past week. Somebody was asking for that, the ability to utilize Heikin-Ashi candles in the strategy tester, but just as a signal as opposed to their values. Because like you say, their values don't exist. They provide very, very unrealistic results. So maybe it was you that suggested it, and just by, you know, you asked earlier, you're not on Twitter. Got it. Okay, cool. Good to know. Thank you for clarifying that. We'll see what they say. You know, the worst thing they can say is exactly what I just kind of suggested, that yes, we know that some users want it or some traders want it, but it's not a high enough priority for us to spend time on implementing. It's always possible. But I guess, you know, maybe Jacob, we can talk very quickly about like what it is specifically that you're looking for with the Heikin-Ashi candles. Is there a particular setup that you're on the hunt for, that you utilize as your signal? If there's something that you can specifically point to and say, this is what I do, that actually could be potentially very helpful, because then I could send that idea along, right? I don't know how difficult it is to define a Heikin-Ashi candle as a candle pattern. That is, again, that's outside of my worldview. But, you know, I talk to our developer all the time, or our head developer all the time, so I can certainly speak with him about it. If you give me an idea of what specifically you're looking for, are you looking for the flip from red to green? Or are you looking for, I don't know, are you looking for multiple doji candles in a row? I'm not wildly, if I'm honest, I'm not wildly familiar with Heikin-Ashi. I don't really use them too much. So what I would do if I were you is like give some use cases. If there are several red candles back to back and waiting for the break of the high or low of the second green candle, oftentimes works as a great reversal. Interesting. Is the Heikin-Ashi, let's see something real quick. The high is the maximum value from the high open or close of the current period. So the high isn't a, hold on. I just want to see something. I guess you still would have to define red, wouldn't you? You'd have to be able to define red and green, not just high-low. Because your high-low, I just want to see. Yeah, so your high-low is the high-low of the regular, like a standard Japanese candle. Got it. So you just need to be able to define red-green. That's all you need. So I don't know. Maybe there is a way that you could easily do that, or that maybe not you personally, but maybe there is a way that the dev team could build a candle pattern, a Heikin-Ashi red or Heikin-Ashi green. Because then you could also, in theory, you could define like the size of the candle, define where the open is relative to the close. I don't know. It's something to think about, and I'm happy to bring it up. Two charts of the same signal. What you mean, man? One on Heikin, one on candle and run your strategy. I guess you could try that, huh? But the whole strategy he's saying is defined by red Heikinashi, multiple red Heikinashi candles followed by multiple green Heikinashi candles. And to define the red-green on the Heikinashi is not possible. Well, it is possible, but you don't get true values is the thing. Anyway, guys, any last minute questions? Going once, going twice? This is your chance. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of here. Want to give a big thank you to everybody who tuned in today. Much obliged. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this live stream, you want to see me keep doing them, hit me with some likes. Hit me with some subscribes to the channel. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do that. That lets my team know that you guys enjoy these and that we should keep doing them. That's really what it boils down to. Right on, Jacob. I hope you have a great day too. Deep dive. Hope you have a lovely day. Kay, thank you for your questions. Kevin Hill, thank you for being here. Sarah from Medellin, thank you for being here. Christmas is just a few days away, guys. Pretty wild. I will be back again on probably Wednesday, or today's Wednesday. I'll be back again on Friday, probably. And hanging out with you guys, talking shop. We'll see where we end up. If anybody needs anything in between now and then, hit me up. Krutzky Trades on Twitter, or hit up the team via the Contact Us button in the bottom right-hand corner of your chart view. If you're not a TrendSpider trader just yet, that's all right. You can still talk to the team. Go to TrendSpider.com. I'll show you. Go to TrendSpider.com. Click on this little button right here. And you'll be able to talk to a team member there as well. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your trading day. Again, holler if you need me. And we will see you guys again very soon. All right? All right? All right? Yeah? We're good? Okay. Take care, everybody.